Hey, what's going on, everyone? Joe Menza here, and I want to do another beginner-friendly watercolor painting. And I've got my Daniel Smith half pans out, and today I'm using this set of golden maple brushes. I've used these before. These, I found you can use them for watercolor, oil, acrylic, anything really. I'll put a link in my description. They gave these to me for free to play with, and they're just a decent set of, you get almost every brush in here, and I forget, they're not expensive, but here is a synthetic brush, and I'm just using this to put the water on. Now, I'm not using the usual Ranson Hake brush. I'm just going to use these brushes, and I probably only will use a couple of them. There's also a palette knife in there as well. But I just want to show you, you can do this. You can kind of just get a house painter brush. You can get small brushes from the hardware store. So I don't want you to feel like, hey, I got this Hake brush or Hake brush, or, you know, I got to get this special certain kind of brush. You can do this really with any kind of brushes. You could do your whole painting with a fan brush. It's just a matter of getting used to what you use. Now, I like these bigger brushes because they keep you from painting and fussing on details. And that was the Ranson philosophy. If you join us, you'll find over at our group on Facebook, the Ranson Disciple Group, we use that brush. It's a great brush, holds a lot of water. But really, the big brush is going to do the same for you. If you don't want to use a brush that's made from goat hair for whatever reasons, you can use a brush like this. Again, I believe this is synthetic. I think it's nice to have a inexpensive set of brushes that aren't going to fall apart on you. These have held up. I've used them for oil, acrylic, and watercolor now, and they've done pretty well, actually. So I put some ultramarine blue on here, and I got some raw sienna going, and I'm just kind of doing the background. Now, this is cotton paper. This is Arches, and I'm going to keep repeating this going forward, that the best materials will yield you most likely the best results. But you can use inexpensive products, use what makes you happy and what you can afford. I think you can get similar results if it's just a hobby and you're just in it to have fun. Now, ball up a nice paper towel like this and just dab away at the wet paint. And this is the easiest way for beginners to make clouds. Making clouds is very challenging. Even down the road, it's hard to make realistic looking clouds. If you're just starting out, dab away with the tissue and make cloud shapes. You don't like it? Paint over it again, dab away again. Now, I'm going to take the same color here with some water. I'm going to make this sort of a backgroundy type mountain. And that's just a quick stroke across, see? This is like a purple, blue, and then make little peaks, one or two. And that's your easy mountain now you have in the background. Do not fuss over it. Do not try to do anything fancy. Minimal strokes. Make that quick little mountain. And then I'm just going to clean up the bottom here because I plan to put a little row of some trees or something. So I just want to take away some paint. Now, if you ever do or ever done oils or even acrylics, they take a little longer to dry than watercolor. Acrylic, pretty fast. But if you start to blend paint, it all kind of blends together. That's the thing I like about watercolor, is it's so approachable, it's so accessible. It's actually easier to paint with watercolor. I know people say, oh, it's the hardest. It's the hardest to master because you have to let it take control. You don't control watercolor. But other mediums are harder because you do have to control. You have to really paint. Whereas watercolor will do the work for you if you let it. If you leave room for, randomness. Now I'm using undersea green here, one of my favorite green colors from Daniel Smith. You can make a little Payne's gray and lemon yellow. You can make some really nice greens. Now I'm just randomly putting some foliage in here to frame around this mountain. I'm using the fan brush, the golden maple fan brush. And I think that's probably the only brushes I'm going to use here. But see, the nice thing about these little set of brushes here is the hairs don't fall out. And there's filberts in there, and there's rigger brushes in there. Now, when you go to the store, you can buy those economy packs, those little plastic with the hole in them that are hanging on the rack. And, you know, if you're just starting out, those are okay. I think I bought a few in the very beginning, but after a while, the ferrule, which is the metal part on there, it fell off and the bristles fell apart and stuff like that. So I'm not saying you have to spend a lot of money on brushes, but you do. If you buy those economy brushes, they're probably not going to last you too long term. And you'll see, you'll build up a whole thing of brushes you don't even need. It's a rabbit hole you want to really avoid going down. So I've taken some burnt umber and some browns, and what I'm doing is I'm creating a little land areas here and just a little bit of maybe a little foliage sticking out or something like that. I'm really just being random here. I'm just going with random shapes. I'm making this up as I go along. I want my center to look like either could be water or puddles or, you know, whatever. I'm just having fun, really, at the end of the day. Now I'm cleaning this up a little bit with the fan brush, pulling this down a little bit. So you can pull this down while it's wet, and you can create little reflections and things just by pulling that down. The cotton paper, I will say this about cotton paper, is that it will stay damp longer than your wood pulp. Your wood pulp will dry pretty fast. Now you can spray it with a spray bottle to keep it wet, but your arches and stuff, it'll stay damp for a little while. So I'm taking and I'm blending here, something you can do with most of your papers, you can get away with this, but I like to do a little blending. And now I'm taking a little plastic card here, and I'm just scraping away paint. And this creates little rocks and little things in the landscape. It breaks up the paint. It creates a contrasting counter change between light and dark. If you want to paint the rocks manually, you can. I always like scraping them. I think they look real, and I think a lot of people, my most popular video has been about rock scraping, so I know a lot of people dig it. I'm just going underneath these little rocks with some darks here. Payne's gray, ultramarine blue, burnt umber, you know, those kind of colors get me some darks, and going underneath those to anchor them to the ground. There's no real super big secrets here. You know, if you go into it and you have an open mind and you're accepting of the randomness when it's done, whenever you do your own painting, you're going to be your harshest critic. And just sit back, put it away for a couple days, look back at it. You'll say, it's not too bad. So I'm going to pop a couple birds in here with a pen. And really, that's it. And here's a little mat I'm putting on here. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you got something out of it. I'll keep doing these beginner videos. And I put a blue mat on here. And hopefully we'll progress along together here. And you can enjoy this wonderful hobby of painting watercolor, and it really is a lot of fun. I've done it for several years. I have not grown tired of it. Thank you for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time.